Hello, Reverend Val. I'm so excited to talk to you today. This is
Thank you,
definitely this
Desiree.
is
Intuitive
definitely a
Gems, as we
special
know you
treat.
want. Thank
I
you.
I just wanted to have a conversation with you because you are one of my favorite people on the internet. And
Thank you.
you're looking absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you. As are you.
Thank you so much. But I just kind of wanted to kind of introduce you to some of the people who follow me, because some of them may not know you and what you do. And I know that you and I kind of have a very strong similar interest as it relates to finances, spirituality, money, all the things like that. So why don't we go ahead and start off by you kind of introducing yourself and telling us exactly what it is that you do.
Wow, that's a loaded question. So I'm Reverend Valerie Love, isn't it? Who we are and what we do, that's a loaded question, right? So I am Reverend Valerie Love, also known as Kaisi. And I was a financial planner for 7 years at American Express many years ago. And I left there, sold my financial planning practice so that I could write and speak, so that I could be this transformation agent my soul was calling me to be. And so it led me to getting a book contract, and then it led me to writing more books, and then it led me to YouTube and millions of views later, and wonderful, wonderful global community all over the globe, lots and lots of books sold, and lots of opportunities to speak and share, just like here and now, here we are. So now what do? I am here to help us remember we're God, being God.
Yes.
That's tapping into the bliss that is your very being. Yeah.
And you do that so powerfully, because I have been following you for years. I mean, even before I started my YouTube channel, and I think one of your most popular videos, which probably is still one of your most popular videos, is why Black people are not wealthy. And you literally break it down, and you kind of share some truths there and drop some truth bombs that definitely needed to be said, that needed to be spoken, that I think a lot of people either deliberately choose not to acknowledge, or they just don't know. So how did you kind of merge your financial with the spiritual in a way that people understand it and they don't feel like they're overwhelmed or scared or uneducated or whatever?
That's an excellent question, because my biggest challenge in my entire life has been finances. Hands down, number one, the biggest challenge. That was like the biggest piece of the puzzle I had to solve. And I remember being in a coaching program once. I've been in a lot of coaching programs over the years. And one of the coaching programs I was in, the coach who was teaching it, she was this exquisite coach. Oh, just so amazing. Very, very regal and queenly, and steeped into luxury. And it was just beautiful. It was a very beautiful experience. She said something that really was very profound for me. She said, everyone is in one of three schools, either the money school, the health school, or the relationship school. That you're right, we're all in one of those schools, and some of us may overlap a couple of the schools, right?
I feel like I'm always,
maybe some of us are in all three schools, depending on when it's happening. So I was definitely deep in the money school. And I feel that money, there is something about the energy of money that can bring up a lot of worry, fear, doubt, unworthiness, undeservedness. And these were all the things that I struggled with for a long time. I struggled with them for a very long time. And there was one thing that cured it all. Knowing your God. That cures it all. That cures everything. So there's the solution in one sentence.
Yeah, and I think too, what a lot of people are missing is that piece. because you can have all the strategies, you can have all the techniques, and yeah, you can probably make good money, but then there's also other layers of wealth that I think also need to be cultivated and developed and also kind of tapped into. And I think that's kind of where you and I have a lot of similarities, although we don't do what we do, you know, in the same way. But I also think that wealth is a mindset, you know, and then once you get past that, there is a spiritual aspect to money. There is the spiritual component to wealthiness and finances and abundance and all those wonderful, beautiful things. So a lot of people tell me, and I've struggled with this too, they say, well, you know, I don't know if I could ever make that much money, or, you know, I have to do XYZ because that's what I have to do to pay the bills. What type of advice or words or encouragement or anything would you say to someone who feels like they're stuck? Because I get that a lot, and I'm sure you probably do too, where they don't feel like they can create more or have more or be more.
Ooh, the stuck question, that's a big one, because we get stuck, right? We get these stuck points, and sometimes the stuck point is the same over and over and over. Like, that was one of my biggest frustrations, the same, you know, drama, suffering for myself, especially in the area of money, over and over and over. So that stuck point was extremely frustrating. It's very frustrating. And one thing that I discovered is that if you look at consciousness, it's like a spiral. So let's say that you're spiraling up, you're spiraling. Now, on that spiral, let's say you have an issue like money or relationship or childhood abuse, whatever the issue is. And let's say that issue represents a line on one of the sides of that spiral. Okay, so that line goes from a higher point on the spiral down to a lower point on the spiral. So as you're spiraling in consciousness, because nothing is linear, right? So I just draw this mind map to kind of help us envision what's going on here. So when you are hitting that same stuck point again, and then you resolve it to that level, and then you go on and you meet it again, and you say, I thought I already dealt with this. You are resolving it. You're resolving it at a higher level, which means you are in a different place in consciousness. And this is how your soul, this is how your, the aspect of your being that solves the puzzles, this is how you solve that puzzle, by continuing to meet with it again. And each time you meet it, you're really better. You're a different being. You're not the same being each time you meet it, even though it would appear that you're meeting the same thing. You're different. So maybe you were 20% God and 80% human, running around, doing a lot of stuff. And we're talking about, you can't be 20% God and 80% human. We're talking about how your perception of yourself, your self-perception, and where do we more identify? So I'm more identified with being human, because I don't know anything about saying that I was God. I mean, we grew up in Christianity. That's blasphemy. You'd be a heretic to say something like that. So I'm more identified with the human aspect of myself. And I thought I was a human, when I was going to die, and there was an afterlife, and so forth and so on. Well, when you are at that space in consciousness and you meet with a stuck point, more than likely, you will try to solve the puzzle with some kind of avoidance. You want to bounce off, because it just feels painful. It's not natural to just go into it, right? So we kind of try to avoid the thing, or try to go around it, because these stuck points, they can be very painful. Like my stuck points in life, It was so painful. I remember when one of them was super painful when I was coming out of the cult. I grew up in a cult. And when I was coming out of the cult, I was so locked down mentally, emotionally, and every aspect of my being was so locked down that I wanted to take myself out with a bottle of pills, and I almost did. Yet my children, the thought of my children brought me from the edge. Like, oh, I was nursing a baby, and then I had a toddler, and I'm like, oh no, who's going to take care of my babies? Nope, I got to be here for them. So when I came to that realization that I had to live, because my soul was giving me an ultimatum, it said, live or you can be out. It didn't have any judgment to it. Just if you're going to live, really live. So here I was at a stuck point, didn't know how to resolve it, did not have the spiritual tools, did not have the capacities at that time. The capacity might have been there. I don't know if I really knew what to do. So I didn't resolve it by going into it and going through it. The through is always the way. I would self-medicate with sugar. I was addicted to sugar. I was this doing person. I would run and rescue people. Was super busy. I'm this type A personality, do 10 things. And then if a friend calls with a flat tire, they will always call me because I would come and rush it. Oh my God, and I was addicted to adrenaline rushing through my being, my body. So all of these were avoidance mechanisms to not look at the reality of my experience, my situation. So that was one way. And you kind of push past and just push by. You push it to the side, or you press it, or you stuff it, or you medicate it. Take some, I'm doing this like a jab, it's like shooting up or whatever, or sexing people, whatever the avoidance mechanism is of choice. There's a lot of avoidance mechanisms, right? Then after a while, things start to eat away at you, don't they? They start to, don't they? These things start to permeate, and you start asking big questions. You start wondering about things. So then that causes you to go on a search, right? Wow. It causes you to go on a search for what will resolve the questions. I love the questions because, right, they press us to go find answers. So you go and you find some meditations, or you find some Buddhism books, or a lot of people seem to land at Buddhism first or started Buddhism. It's a very powerful, powerful eye-opener. And then you start to maybe get some crystals, or maybe you start getting tarot decks, and you start accumulating your things. So now you have some spiritual tools. And now when you meet that thing again, because you're going to meet it again because you didn't resolve it. When you meet with it again, you have a little more wherewithal. And you might chip away at it, but the thing is not done yet, right? And then and it kind of resolves, because no problem just stays, everything passes. So it doesn't stay forever. Yet you may meet with it again until one day you're on that spiral and you've ascended it. You don't need it anymore.
Yes.
And what is, right? And what is the mechanism by which you no longer need it? Because you've met your true essential self. And it's all a big made up story. I just made the whole thing up in my head.
That is so true. And they always say that you always outgrow a problem, and then either you change or the problem changes the dynamic within you. And I know this has been true for me, and I've had to find this out the hard way many, many times. But I think the biggest thing, which you said, which I think a lot of people will resonate with, is that issue of worth and self-worth and worthiness. And I think a lot of that, you have to not only see yourself as worthy of having more, but also allowing yourself to have more. Because it's one thing to say, hey, I deserve all these great things. But there's also another part of it too, where, is your consciousness, is your mental capacity able to handle more? And that's kind of the next step. Once I got past that worthiness stuff, I struggled with, well, gosh, I've never made that much before. You know I can make this much. That's easy. Of course I can get that. But then could I expand my capacity for wealth? And that was the challenge. And in some aspects, it's still a challenge for me because, as the numbers increase, sometimes it's a little scary. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. You think, oh my gosh, are they going to come back and ask me for the money back or whatever? So have you ever experienced that or,
Absolutely. 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 Because one of my early on coaching sessions was actually for $15 when I left my financial planning practice. I sold my financial planning practice and I had no problem charging people as a financial advisor because I knew that that was worth this work I was doing for them was commanded that. When I went to spiritual life coaching and really helping people with an even deeper issue than finances, because now we're going to get to the core root of it in consciousness, and you're going to return home to yourself. That was a big, major struggle with charging appropriately. So one of my early on coaching sessions was for only $15. I'm writing about this right now in the book about charging more. This experience was an eye-opener because eventually years later, what it went to was as the consciousness began to come home to true self, these are all simply numbers, right? Mm-hmm. They're just all numbers. And so $25,000, which is where I got to with my with my coaching clients, with mastermind clients, and then was able to bring on several $25,000 clients. Now there was a graduation between $15 and $25,000, right? It wasn't like 15 one day, 25,000 the next. I don't want to paint that picture to be very clear. Yet it continues to escalate because I can easily see someone popped up in my, how on Facebook things pop up as they listen to our conversations, right? So a coach popped up who teaches how to create $100,000 offers, $250,000 offers, $1 million offers for your services. And this has been a really powerful exercise because the more infinite you are, the more infinite you can receive. And it's an elasticity, isn't it? It's an elasticity. And I would say that the mind can only take you so far. I've said on my YouTube channel for many years, you can't think your way to God. The mind can only take you so far. Beingness is it. Beingness.
Yes. I get so excited because I really try to communicate this in my readings each month too. I say there is nothing holding you back from whatever it is that you want, and I'm at the place in my life, and it's taken me many years, many decades to get here, of knowing that I truly can have whatever it is I want. Now, of course, money's fantastic, but now I'm getting to the point where it's the experience. It's the experience of luxury. It's the experience of wealth, and that may not always translate into dollars, right? So I'm starting to expand my awareness of what wealth looks like, right? Because you have the wealthy life as far as I'm concerned, because you travel, you have no, obligations to anybody. You do what you want, when you want, how you want it, when, and I think a lot of people find that lifestyle very attractive. So let's talk about that as far as how you moved into being this wealthy nomad of sorts.
Ever since I was little, I always had this nomadic spirit. So I always knew I wanted to, I'm a big reader. So when I was a little girl, my head was between books. I grew up in New York City, never went outside and played. My brother would be outside and play. I would be in a book. just bookworm, book nerd, just in books. And in the books, I was traveling to all these places. You would be in Africa with the lions, rah, and you would be, out of space in Mars, woo, And so books were the fodder that my consciousness fed on. And books are great for that because books have infinite ideas. I mean, there's no limitations in books. It could be anything. A book, anything can be written in a book. So when I, progressed through life, I always saw myself doing things differently from other people. Right away, I wanted to go start traveling. As soon as I got to be 18, I wanted to start traveling. And we were in the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. People were looking at me like, what's wrong with you? You want to do what? I want to go there. I want to go there. I want to go there. And it was an inherent knowing. It wasn't anything I got from anywhere. It was something that was like, I'm an adventurer within my being, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I traveled and I would go places and I would always come back home, travel, come back home. And I was conditioned to do the same thing that most people do. You take a 1 week or 2 week vacation, you work for 50 weeks a year, so you get those coveted 2 weeks of fun. And 50 weeks, maybe you like it, maybe you don't, maybe it's neutral. Some people hate it. Some people are just not fulfilled by it, but they do it because it pays the bills, what we hear. Yet I knew that there was so much more than that. It was this in here. It was beingness expressing. So I cannot even take credit for my life. People look at like the physical representation, a woman getting on a plane, going here, there, and the other, Dubai and Hong Kong and China, and India, and Peru a few times, retreats to Peru and retreats to Dubai and Paris a couple of times, and south of France, going to Cannes. That was an incredible experience. The south of France is just one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. Throughout Mexico, Hawaii, across the United States, and just all these different places all around the world. And I cannot take credit for doing that as like a woman who put it on a vision board, get the pictures, cut it out, then go do it. It didn't happen like that. It did not. It unfolded as an aspect of who I am. And I go with the inspiration of self. I heard someone talking about this. It was really very fascinating. I think it was Rupert Spira. I hope I'm saying his name right. Spira or Spira. Look him up. Incredible teacher. He says that there are two kinds of desires one could have. One desire comes from lack. I don't have enough money. Let me go make some more money. I don't have love in my life. Let me go get a boo. I don't have fulfillment in my life. Let me go look for something. Look for something that will fulfill me. I gotta find myself. How people say stuff like that. I gotta find myself. All of that stuff, right? All of that. Which, hey, I did all that stuff. It's fun. It has its place. And then he said the other kind of desire is coming from fullness. It's coming from abundance. So one is coming from lack. I don't have something and I'm trying to go get it. Mm-hmm. The other one is coming from, I'm full of this and how can I share it? That's where it was coming from. It was coming from, adventure. Want to go have some adventures? That's where it was coming from. And that's where it's still coming from. So it's this fountain inside. If we discover the fountain within self, that's it. And then that fountain, just go with that fountain. You may find yourself in India. You may find yourself, I find myself in these places and there was nothing. I promise you, Desiree, there was nothing that I could point to in my consciousness that said, you would be here on this day doing this thing. I would just look and I'd be there. How did I get here? Therefore, it had to be, because I didn't plan it out. there had to be some intelligence, yes, beyond my conscious mind that was coded, that is coded for bliss. Because everywhere I found myself, just like I look around my house, it's toe curling. I can make up this house. It's toe curling bliss. That is the nature of the central being. Toe curling bliss. So when you look up and we were on the beach in Maui, and we just look up and there's just this sunset, like literally everyone on the beach, we were packing up our little things, and then the sun sets and everybody just turns, and we're just, even the kids were just like, oh, did you plan that? And, we're at the top of the Eiffel Tower, me, and I took my daughter, and I took my son and his friend, not girlfriend, friend. So the four of us at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and then they said, let's get some champagne. Okay, I guess people call it synchronicity. You're going with the vibe and the flow, right? Your highest inspiration. And we get some champagne, and we're up there sipping champagne, and you're looking around like, how did this happen? How did it get this good? And it's not your mind. Your mind can't make it that good. Don't play. My mind can't make it that good. Don't play. It's beyond the mind. It's the true self. Yeah. Express it. Yeah. And true self is simply beingness. It's isness. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have to do anything. It simply isness. And pouring from that are infinite possibilities of what you could do.
Yeah, and for those of you watching who don't know, Reverend Val is living in Merida, Mexico right now.
Right now, yes.
Yes. Yes, and it's amazing because I know so many people are moving to Mexico, especially, we're dealing with all this craziness in the world. And I mean, you're one of many people I know, especially those of us who are more in alignment with our spiritual path, spiritual community, I guess I'll call it. But there's a lot of people leaving the United States and moving to Mexico, and, have you tapped into a spiritual community that you've been there? I mean, tell me what that's like.
No, I have not tapped into any communities since I've been in Merida. Because even though I have many friends here, I have many connections here. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. Everywhere I go, there are beautiful people. That is one of the best parts about the global lifestyle is people. Yes, beautiful, incredible, amazing people. So I have a lot of beautiful, amazing people in my life here in Merida. Not one specific community that I can speak of, even though I just joined the Facebook group. There's a Facebook group called Brothers and Sisters of Merida. Yeah, I think there's a Facebook group pretty much for any place you want to go, Brothers and Sisters of Bali, or sisters in this place or brothers in that place, because I'm going to tell you a funny thing that happens in Merida. When I see a sister, I say, sister spotting, sister spotting. And I'm like, sister. And, we're like, it's just natural. I have the God bumps right now. I heard, who was it that I heard speaking? I forget who it was, but somebody was being interviewed on the Breakfast Club. I think it was Tiffany Haddish or someone like that. And they were talking about traveling. And, as a sister, it's like being part of the best sorority in the world, because anywhere you see a sister, I was in Bali one time, and I didn't see hardly any sisters, and there was a sister that came by on because scooters are big in Bali, right? Really big. So I'm standing on the street, and I saw more brothers there than sisters, right? So she rides by on a scooter, right? And both of us do this double take. But it was too fast for us to actually have an interchange. So you know what she did? As she went by, she just threw up the Black Power. She just threw up the fist, and I was like, it was a crazy moment because, she riding on the back of this, moped, holding on. Somebody was riding her, because you can actually rent that as like a form of transportation, somebody to ride you on the back of the scooter somewhere. And so that just shows that connection. It's a connection. Yes. I think it's because it's a connection with kindred spirits, and you just recognize just the love. It's like a big family, right? So that happens a lot in Merida. I'm seeing more and more of our people here. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason I'm seeing more and more brown people here is because people here are brown. Right. Oh yeah, they're brown. They're brown, unlike us. And what's very fascinating about it is they call each other negra and negro, negrito and negrita. And it's not a slur. It's sort of like a term of endearment. Negrita is a term of endearment. As a matter of fact, right around, not far from me, is a store called Negrita. So negra, negro, negrita, negrito, those are terms of endearment. Like my little brown one or something like that, So in the part of
I learned something. I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either until I got here. I learned this while I was here from our beautiful Mexican brothers and sisters, and sisters, brothers, and others, I always like to say, right? And there's something about the Yucatan, which is where Merida is, that is very different from the rest of Mexico. So Mexico and the Yucatan were sort of two different places. And I think the Yucatan was trying to want to have their own independence, yet they're part of Mexico. So, there's this pride of being Yucateca, or Yucatan. So, and Yucatan has its own food, and the Yucatan has the Maya, and the Yucatan has ancient cities from the Maya. So it's a very strong Mayan culture here. So even when you hear the Spanish, you hear Mayan words peppered into the Spanish in the Yucatan, which is different from all of Mexico. And Mexico has many tribes, just like the United States had, before it was called the United States, many tribes. So, you have the Aztec, you have the Inca, they say dozens of tribes. The Mayan were always fascinating to me. So I'm writing Mayan world. We go to the ancient cities. We see the Mayan culture. There are many Mayas still alive. There's the language. It's still alive here. So I would say with all that, I said all that to say, Merida is very welcoming to brown people. Very welcoming. It's very appealing. I feel at home here. And I don't feel at home a lot of places around the world. I feel like I'm visiting. Here I feel like, it's you can feel it. I felt that when I landed in Kenya. When I landed on the motherland, home. Like mother. Like this is where I'm from. It was like origin, source, energy that shot through my being when I got off the plane. I just stepped on the ground. I was like, shoom. Yeah, it's very fascinating. So my life in Mexico, and this is a good spot for a few reasons. I chose this spot for a few reasons. And once again, it wasn't my own conscious mind choosing it. It was the higher wisdom leading. I'm financially independent because my automatic streams of income already take care of my home and what I require in my life. So book royalties, I talk about this in automatic income streams. To make streams of income that are automatic, that don't require you to work if you don't want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. So I have 3 streams of automatic income. One stream of automatic income is I have a wellness club, a wellness membership. And for those who join the wellness membership, it gives us automatic income. Automatic income from YouTube and automatic income from book royalties. So just book royalties take care of home, and the home is cheap. I mean, it's Mexico. It's a gorgeous home, very inexpensive. So I did a lot of what was in 4-Hour Work Week. I read 4-Hour Work Week a long time ago.
Yes, me too, when it first came out.
And it resonated. Location arbitrage currency arbitrage. The new rich were those who had time and money and location independence. He kept talking about the new rich. The new rich weren't like the old rich. The old rich were like more like structures in place, stability. You were there forever. Coca-Cola, one place, you were rooted. And I view Tim Ferriss as somewhat of as a genius, not somewhat as of a genius.
Oh, absolutely.
I do. Yeah,
he's definitely a pioneer in the freedom, independence, wealth movement, I guess we should say. Even FIRE, I don't know if you're familiar with the FIRE community, you know, it's like the way people are thinking about work and their life now. Before, you had to really choose, you know, you had to choose either my job or my life. Like you would have to move to a specific city or location because that was your dream job, or you live where you want to live and then you take whatever job is available there. It's not like that anymore. You know, you and I and millions of others have, you know, can attest to that. You know, I mean, because I read the 4-Hour Workweek when it first came out, but let me tell you, it took me many, many years to create my own 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, me as well. It takes years to really pull it all together in a meaningful way. It takes years. Yeah. It's not instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the thing is just
but it's so worth it, isn't it?
Yes. And just having it in your mind, having that seed planted, knowing that, okay, this is something I can do somehow, some way. This is it. This is what I want. And it took me years, but it's possible. You know,
oh my God.
It's definitely possible.
Yes. And do you get this sense that it is, yes, it's the way that we're supposed to live, that you're supposed to live in a way that is fulfilling, where you want. Nation states and lines on maps were made up. They were all invented. They're arbitrary. You know, you're born on this side of the line, you get these privileges, but you're born on this side of the line, you're a United States citizen, you can go anywhere in the world. But if you're born on this side of the line, I mean, it could be feet differences. There's a place where I went when I came to the US not too long ago. I went to through Tijuana, and there you can stand in two countries at the same time. It's literally the line is right there. And they show you, you know, on the wall, you can take a picture. This is Mexico, this is the United States. If you're born here, you have this kind of life. If you're born here, you have this kind of life. This is very arbitrary. So it's really and made up from things that happened decades, maybe hundreds of years ago. It's really time for us to it's for us to own sovereignty. That each person is a sovereign being. And a sovereign being gets to decide what they're going to do, what they're going to create. It's not dictated to them from the outside.
Yes.
It's emanating from who they are.
Yes, yes. Right? And, you know, even our ancestors, that was their way of life. They didn't stay in one place forever, you know, and especially with, you know, the changing of the seasons, depending on, you know, whatever was going on at that particular time, our ancestors were very migrant and they moved and they changed. And, you know, I mean, not that I'm an expert on this, but just from what I've read and what I've learned, you know, they weren't, like you said, stationary in one place. You know, they were always on the move. They were always going. They were always looking for more and moving and, you know, kind of working with nature in that sense, you know, because when it was winter, they would move. And when it was warmer, they would, you know, do other things. They would hunt and gather and all that type of stuff. So I think, too, that a lot of our instinctual practices have been either suppressed, have been dismissed, you know, because we have been indoctrinated in the modern society that we live in, you know, and no shade to anybody, because I was there too. You know, I grew up, go to school, go to college, get the degree, work 40 hours a week, and maybe you'll retire in a good place. But the older I got and the more I played that game, I realized this isn't exactly what they said it was going to be. So yeah, you know, but I do think that everyone has to kind of come to that aha moment on their own. But I do know a lot of the people that, you know, watch me and who watch you, a lot of them are already aware of it. They're just trying to figure out how to make it work. How can they make it happen in their lives? Which will take me to our last little question here. And now I know you are a huge fan of crypto, Bitcoin.
Yes, Bitcoin. Yes.
Yes. And I am too. And thanks to you, I have learned more and more and more and more and more, because I was a very not too involved. I mean, I was a very scared, we should say, I was a very nervous Bitcoin owner before I started learning with you. So let's talk about that. How did you get involved with Bitcoin? Another loaded question, right?
That is a great question. I always say I got orange pilled when you learn about Bitcoin, we call it, you got orange pilled, right? Yes. Like the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill, you got orange pilled. So I got orange pilled by higher self, by self. And the way it happened was it came in meditation, Bali and Bitcoin. Now I had seen this little orange bee about the internet, you know, here and there, sort of in my periphery. And before 2014, this was November of 2014, and meditation came to me, Bali and Bitcoin. And I just jumped up like, what? And I didn't know where Bali was on the map. I looked it up. I didn't know where it was. And since then I went to 8 months later, I was living in Bali for about 33 days. And then I've had retreats to Bali as well. We did your book in 5 days retreat in Bali. And when I got that inspiration about Bitcoin, I was like, you mean that thing is real? Because my financial planner trained mind discounted it immediately without examination. It was an instant brush off, because that can't be real money. Mm-hmm. That's some gamer money, some techno something that doesn't have anything to do with us. Gamers do that, you know, playing in games. That's what I thought, it was gamer money. And when I studied it and went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, this is the manifestation of freedom. Our collective consciousness has expressed in the form of code in a way that has never been done before. I don't even think 98, maybe even 99% of the world knows what's about to happen.
Yes.